Welcome to Rooftop Rope Access. Today we are delivering a promotional video on our roof-mounted anchor system, a relatively new product used for both access and fall protection purposes on asphalt shingled roofing surfaces. The most attractive features of this product, well, let's start with the fact that it's the only roof-mounted anchor that attaches to the nailing strip to avoid damaging composition shingles. It can be installed in less than 5 minutes when used as a temporary anchor, or around 20 to 30 minutes when installed as a permanent anchor. And is OSHA compliant for both fall restraint and work positioning systems. The components of our anchor system consist of two 14-gauge stainless steel anchor plates, one 8 to 14 foot dynamic lanyard connected to two steel Delta rapid links, and a 40-foot dynamic rope that is attached to the lanyard with a 22 kilonewton aluminum belay ring. The tools and components required for installing the anchor plates consist of stainless steel screws, a crescent wrench, a small cordless drill, and the actual anchor plate itself that comes with a sharpened edge for lifting the shingles it will be mounted under. This anchor system can be installed on steep, non-walkable slopes from the ridge cap, valleys, and hip ridge, or if you choose, with the assistance of a hook ladder tool or pitch hopper. Anchor plate positioning should be within 1 to 2 feet from the ridge and stagger between 2 to 6 feet apart, depending on lanyard length and situational access requirements. To understand the physical strength of our anchor plates, you need to understand the difference between tensile strength and shear strength. Tensile strength measures the resistance to pulling forces directed straight up and away from the roofing surface. And while the anchor plate's tensile strength is relatively low, with failure occurring around 300 to 500 pounds of force, its shear strength is significantly greater, exceeding 1,200 pounds for same slope force application, 2,600 pounds for opposite slope force application, and 3,800 pounds when force is applied equally to both plates of a full anchor system. Another impressive feature of our anchor system is its ability to resist the potential for catastrophic failure from the effects of shock loading, which is a sudden and drastic increase in applied loads like a leading edge fall. An inherent risk which is mitigated through the use of shock-absorbent dynamic cordage that drastically reduces the effect of shock loads applied to anchor fasteners. Dynamic rope is strength-rated cordage with up to 30% elongation potential, or, to put it a different way, about half the elongation potential of your standard bungee cord. Translate this feature into layman's terms and we can clearly see that while low elongation cordage like this steel cable will simply transfer shock loads directly to our fastener, low elongation cordage will absorb a significant portion of any shock load before it even reaches the fastener, which is essentially the very same technique employed by sport climbers to prevent the possibility of catastrophic failure for the anchors that they choose. But our Dynamic Lifeline's accolades are not simply relegated to the benefits of resisting shock loads, because it has a tensile strength that exceeds the 5,000-pound OSHA standard required for personal fall arrest systems, and its 10.5 millimeter diameter is compatible with the majority of all ascenders, descenders, and fall arresters available on today's open market. The anchor plates of this system can be quickly installed and safely used as a temporary anchor with screw fasteners that pass through standard half-inch wood decking alone. However, for the purpose of creating a more permanent anchor, a minimum of 2 additional screw fasteners should be driven through the wood decking and directly into the rafter framing member of the roof. Once the fasteners are in place, we will verify our fasteners are properly secured with a process we call a 50-pound pull test, where we will apply 50 pounds of pressure perpendicular to the sloped surface while carefully observing the anchor plate for any signs of compromise. Now that our anchor plates are properly installed and tested, an 8 to 12 foot lanyard secured on each end to two Delta rapid links can be connected with the assistance of a small crescent wrench that will tighten hex nuts to 1/4 turn past finger tight. Once this is completed, a 10.5 millimeter dynamic mantle rope can now be secured to the 22 kilonewton aluminum ring with a double overhand slip knot. But before we can safely commit to the use of this lifeline, we must first verify that the angles we load our anchor plates with will never exceed that of 90 degrees, which in turn will guarantee sufficient resistance for the maximum potential loads applied to the system. Following these simple rules for assembly and using the access safety system with deliberate action for maintaining zero slack between the climber and anchor plates, with a cautious approach for working within 3 foot of the eave, rake, or any other form of leading edge, will provide you with the flexibility required to provide for your safe access needs.